forward. And I will share my screen and we'll jump in here. Everybody see my screen?
Got it.
Perfect. Okay. All right. As always, thank you all so much for being here and for being a partner with us. We're really excited about the momentum we have with UCLA and that we built from last year and into this year, and just all of your plans and Lucy's plans for digital transformation. It's really pretty cool and it's neat to be part of it. So thank you so much again for partnering with us. I believe everything we're showing you here is all generally available, but we have to put these statements in that anything that's not GA generally available, that please make your purchasing decisions based on what is available. Quick agenda here. I'm just going to do a quick intro. We already did sort of intros here. I'm going to just do a quick recap on what we heard. And then Liam's going to dive into the demo about 20 minutes and the ITS CRM part of the demo. And then John Osgood, our fabulous engagement specialist, is going to dive into the marketing cloud piece and sort of how that all works together with CRM, which is obviously we've made that recommendation on implementing CRM first. And we're going to show you why that makes sense in sort of a live demo environment. I'm going to touch on customer success and some of the advisory services that we have touched on in some of our other conversations. And then we'll just wrap up Q&A and go from there. Sound good? Any questions? All set? Okay. Okay, so we, had a couple different one-off meetings after the first demo that we did. The feedback that we received was that it was a little too general, a little too broad, maybe a little too out of the possible. So we dialed it back and we had a couple meetings with Nitika as well as Jennifer to really, understand exactly what you're looking to accomplish, get a better conceptual understanding of your KPIs. Since it's a little bit of a non-traditional, but of course our platform is customizable, essentially Sales Cloud use case focused on the ITS department. So we're going to, show you how the system of engagement with your key stakeholders on campus allow you to efficiently track that information, understand more of the feedback you're getting from them. I know we talked about some surveys, some way of scoring the engagement that you're having with them, and some different ways that you measure that. So we put together something pretty custom today that I'm excited about, and Liam did a really nice job, and so did John. So I'm looking forward to showing you guys what we put together that I think is really going to allow you to scale and really kind of track and measure those projects and the things that you're looking to do within the ITS department in a little bit of a non-traditional way, more customizable way that will sort of meet your needs. So excited to show you that. Any questions here before we jump in? I've shown this wheel before, and I know last time we showed maybe a couple components here. Today, we're only going to be focusing on Sales Cloud and Marketing Cloud. So again, you all know the sort of scalability of our platform in the other components that we're able to add on to our Customer 360 model with all of your data. But those are the two focus areas that we have today, specifically just for ITS. And I will turn it over to Liam to jump into the demo.
Can you just jump to the next slide for just a second, Emily, and then I'll share.
This one? Or did I miss something?
That's interesting. Is there a slide with like a circle-y thing? If there's not, it's okay. That's weird.
I didn't realize you dropped that in there. Is that a
oh.
I think I
That's okay.
it. So I thought it was from the old one. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. No problem.
I think I
probably should have mentioned that. No, it's okay. It's not a big deal.
It was just
no, not at all.
Okay.
I just kind of wanted to set the, exactly what we're going to be talking about today. And really that is two different things I'll be talking about. And one thing that John will be talking about. We want to talk about sort of those relationships with your accounts and the sort of relationship management side of things. And then also the tracking and reporting side of things. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So stakeholder engagement, relationship management. Those are the two things I will be focusing on. We're not really going to get very much outside of that because I think we got a little too far outside of that last time. And then we're going to turn it over to John. He's going to talk about the communication and marketing side of things. And I'll be alluding to some of that along the way. So cool. Thanks, Emily. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Sorry about that.
No problem. So in the interest of really sticking to generally standard, CRM functionality and how it's going to apply to, to the marketing and communication side of things. I'm actually not using, typically, most of the demos that all of you have seen have been in our education industry demo org, which has some really great information on, preloaded information on academic departments and programs and students and all that good stuff. It seemed like after our last conversation, this would be better served using our more general .com demo org. The reason I mention that is, number one, the page layouts that you're going to see, I think, are more geared toward what exactly you're trying to accomplish. And number two, the other reason I mention that is there may be points where you see things that sound a little more .com than .org and edu specific. I think we've known each other long enough to know that, I try to make things as edu specific as possible. This is sort of like that fringe use case. So apologies in advance if there are things, and actually I will preface, when we get to some of the reports, they're going to be less edu specific, but I think they'll make a lot more sense for what all of you are trying to accomplish here. With that long-winded apology out of the way, I just wanted to talk about, number one, starting with the way that you engage with, with units on campus. I use the School of Arts and Architecture as the account, as the unit that we'll be talking about today. We can see those accounts, of course we can dive into them, and I wanted to talk a little bit about how these could look. We're seeing some general information here. We can build this page layout in whatever way we want to expose whatever information to the right people, so that you really have this nice 360-degree view of this particular program or department. I'm going to talk through a few of these things and what they mean in the context of things that we've discussed as we go through here. Of course, we have general information, of course, name, type, if they're a program, department, administrative, whatever else they may be. Contact info, number of employees. This is not information that you have to have, but it's just sort of an example of some of the things you can pull in here. Any information you have about them can be populated, and you can add, of course, additional fields that you need as necessary. We talked about having a list of key partners, and those would be our contacts at that particular unit on campus. This is a list of our related contacts, any key partners that exist there. This is one of those places where you may see some of the more .com titles. I changed a few of them, not all of them, but we can really easily see the people that we might engage with when we're talking to that particular unit. So we can easily have access to them. We can add additional information too. If I mouse over or even click into, Ed, for example, we can see his specific phone number, his contact info, his title, and then we can get this activity indicator too. So I'm going to talk a little bit about ways that we can sort of automate the understanding of what our relationship with that individual person is like. So we can see that Ed is, 3 out of 5 star. He's been fairly communicative-ish, clearly more than Mark, but it kind of gives us like an indicator of how much we've actually engaged with that person and sort of what our relationship overall might look like with that person. Doesn't have to be an activity indicator. It can be, whatever else you want it to be. But we did talk about, ways that we can sort of better understand, like, if Lucy's going into a meeting, she can go, okay, well, we've got a really good relationship with this person. We've talked to them a lot, or we haven't really talked to them that much, don't know this person all that well. I'm going to talk about a little more once we get to the other column over here too. Talked about having those discussions around like pending projects. If someone goes into a meeting and this School of Arts and Architecture, for example, has decided they do want to migrate to the central email system. Last time we talked, you mentioned that a few times, and I just used that as my example. We can use opportunities for that if we want to. So we can actually see, oh, there's, email system migration. We know this is something that is in discussion. It's not yet a project, it's still a discussion. We can easily click into that to actually see that opportunity record, see what the stage is. So again, if someone's going into a meeting with the School of Arts and Architecture, we can say, hey, I know we've got this email system migration meeting. How's that going? We can see any details, activity, and the feed that's related to that. So any conversations that have happened that are specific to that discussion about that pending opportunity, that pending project, can show up here too. Now, I know you're not going to be using Salesforce specifically for project tracking, that's going to be Smartsheets. There is a Smartsheets integration. You can pull that in. I don't have Smartsheets, so I don't have an integration, but I did create a tab for that. So if you do want to use that integration and pull in those current projects, so that not only can you see those conversations that are ongoing, you can also see any current projects that are tied to that account. You can pull those into, and that'll show up, wherever you want to put it. This is the way that I built it. You can build it, however makes the most sense for you.
Yeah, and I want to just point out here too that, all of these stages, type, those things can be completely customizable to your own KPIs. I know Liam had put in, instead of dollar amount, there's like a score, right? Or 1 to 4 based on our conversation with Jennifer on how you measure. Where was that at? Like a 1 to 4 instead of a dollar amount on, maybe I missed that.
We're going to talk a little more about that when we go back.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead, but
no, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, one of the things I forgot to mention here is that just having your path, having your individual stages, these are like the default sales stages that are in our demo org. You can call them whatever you want, but it gives you a visualization of where you are in that conversation. So again, if someone else has been having that conversation, but Lucy goes into a meeting, she can go, hey, I know we're still sort of, talking about, how this might, the timing or how we might need to process this email migration. She can see any of that information before going into that meeting. So she's well informed. I did get rid of, that was supposed to go away. I did get rid of the amount because we talked about it's not, there aren't, actual dollars attached to these opportunities. So, we can build out any other fields that you might want to represent, like number of hours it's going to require, any services that might be beyond or might be included in that project as well.
Liam, for Smartsheets, you said there was a connector already established, right? I'm just thinking of how what is the key information that goes off of? Is it account name? Is it, I guess that's more of a technical question, but I was just thinking about how to integrate.
Yeah, so I read through the Smartsheets integration on the App Exchange. Not being familiar with Smartsheets, since I've never, used it on my own, it's hard for me to go, okay, well, this is what it's going to look like. This is the information you're going to pull in. But because there's that integration, you can tie it to the account record and see the projects for that particular account, for example.
So it's the account record. Yeah, we'll just have to define that. I was just curious
Yeah.
That is an important piece to pull in, definitely.
I figured it would be.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, I meant to send you the link to the Smartsheets integration if you hadn't already seen it, but I can do that after the meeting if I didn't.
I don't recall, but it would be good if you can resend it.
Okay, I will do that.
You know what I'm wondering, Liam, is that would we be able to, and Annette, I'd love any feedback that you provide here. We have a service catalog here within ITS, and I'm wondering if somehow we could integrate that in here where it's very clear what services does ITS provide to that unit, and what services do they manage locally? Because ultimately, at some point, you're going to kind of do this side by side between them, and then there's going to be a migration of anything that we're managing centrally within ITS that quite honestly makes more sense than handled in the unit, because it's just not unique to that unit. It's something we can commoditize, if you will, that, somehow that's what's tracked on this tab. Because if I were someone like a Lucy, I could go in there and say, okay, great. I can already see that. To me is her opportunity, right? What are all of those activities and or services that are being managed within those units that we probably need to move into ITS as part of Hub and Spoke? And then which ones will remain local, so that as she talks with them on a regular basis, it allows her to, just clearly understand, so she doesn't have to track them herself.
Yeah, that's actually something I wanted to ask you about, because I did find your IT services, like the service list, where you can actually go into ServiceNow and browse the services and actually see all the information about the services. My assumption was that you probably didn't want to replicate that in Salesforce right now. I'm not quite sure what that be, just because of sort of, data consistency and data hygiene across the two systems. So I think that's something we should discuss, is sort of like ways to either integrate that, or ways to, how we're going to maintain that consistency of data across two. So if something changes in one, it changes in both. But I thought it was really interesting that you actually have all of these. I mean, there's a ton of different services that are provided. I assume this is the list that you're referring to. Yeah.
Liam, there's an integration already with ServiceNow and Salesforce, right?
There is, yeah. So I'd have to look at that integration too specifically.
Yeah, that's going to be a key integration, Jennifer. I think that's an excellent point. I think we talked about this at some level, but we do, as you see, document all of our services that we provide, but to have that match to what we have in Salesforce, I have an all inclusive kind of view of things for each client, I think would be great. So I think, yeah, ServiceNow integration is going to be key, Smart Sheets, but ServiceNow even more so. I think ServiceNow is even more important than Smart Sheets, but there's a lot of information contained here. But obviously projects play a huge role in what we do for partners too. So both of these are going to be an important integration for us for Salesforce.
Yeah, and I think that on this tab, I'm glad you pulled it out. On this tab would be almost the management of how we are migrating, if you will, each unit to that hub and spoke model, because there'll be an engagement where you'll go through and kind of do this side by side, if you will, and start to talk through how that would be managed. And then at that point, on the flip side, when we talk about projects, those would fall in line with our project management methodology coming in through Smart Sheets, because if it's identified as a potential project, we maintain it as a, as kind of under discovery, if you will, within Smart Sheets, and then we can just pull it in from there. Because that's really where I think we might run into duplication of data if we're trying to maintain those lists in two systems. It's just, if it comes through as a potential project, it goes through the intake process within Smart Sheets and then feeds into here. So that, again, as we're looking at each of these accounts, which are really these units, oh, okay, here's everything that's kind of at these different tiers of the project management lifecycle process. These are in discovery, these are going through business case development, these have hit approval now, these have initiated, and so on and so forth. I did see your note, Keith, about how this would be integrated with ServiceNow. I mean, that's a great question, because you don't want to have, you don't want to have a duplication there either. Somehow we'd have to figure out. My thought is that ServiceNow is the source of truth
That is exactly
that feeds into Salesforce, and that we're just documenting. I almost look at it as having two columns. What services do we do for this unit within ITS, and which services do they manage locally potentially?
Yeah, that makes sense. The other thing I'm thinking about too is there, as you guys know, there's varying levels of effort involved in integration. So if it's a simple push into Salesforce, that's way different than both systems needing to, real-time talk back and forth. So I know we have the objects for this. I've worked with a lot of for-profit customers on cataloging products and stuff. So it really comes down to would you agree, Liam, kind of like the level of effort and the integration and how we get that data from ServiceNow and Salesforce?
Yep, absolutely.
ServiceNow is going to have a lot more detailed information that we would ever need in Salesforce. I think that data will probably come over in summary to Salesforce. And ServiceNow and Smart Sheets are both our source of truth. So I see CRM as a repository of all the information coming from the subsystem of collection of information, but not to the level. Obviously, Smart Sheets has a lot more information too, from project tracking kind of point of view. But yeah, definitely the real time versus, so that was a different discussion, but I think that we don't need to have every single thing replicated. We just have to decide what are the critical fields that we want to pull over and just pull those over.
I think
That makes sense.
I think the intent of having the discovery and the, that cycle, which we were trying to show there, was that if we are into some conversations and we are trying to capture some ideas or conversations that, okay, Lucy's in a meeting and some opportunity or some conversation comes up that, okay, this unit would need to migrate to email system, for example. So there would be an opportunity to track that or at least have that somewhere. Now we can definitely, once it is more substantiated and okay, we are moving in that direction, probably Smartsheet would take over, but it is just to capture that idea and make sure that we have some sort of reference to it. So yeah, we might not want to take it through all of the cycle here, but I think it will be good to have an option or a way to track it.
Another way we could do it, Nitika, is that we could have a link to the Smartsheet intake form. That if an idea comes in, it's a pretty straightforward form. And we would just capture the link here so that if, again, what I'm envisioning is that, Lucy and her strat partner, as well as her coordinator, whomever will be the kind of ITS right arm to her, as she has these weekly, monthly, quarterly meetings. They pull up, the account, if you will, when she goes to meet with them. And then if there is something that's brought up as kind of this idea, there's key information that they would fill within that intake form so that, again, there's not a duplication of that information. It just goes straight over to the intake form. And then somehow maybe there's a feedback that Smartsheets is giving her on, the project tab, because they can easily tag that this was requested on that form via Arts and Architecture, something like that. We can work on that. So as I look at this, I like the idea that, you have this overview of kind of, as you had mentioned, this is highly customizable. So it's here all the attributes, general attributes that we want to maintain about the unit, key partners. Those would be kind of all the key stakeholders within that unit that we work with. Services, it could be that side by side as it relates to kind of the hub and spoke and, moving forward. Current projects, those would get fed in at any stage from Smartsheet. I'm assuming account plan, is that just perhaps
It was just going to
tab
be
that
some
we can
shared
use?
documents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then as we have these meetings, is there an area where we can take notes? So, as I meet with them on a quarterly basis, here's where we would take notes from those meetings, et cetera.
Yeah, that's a great segue into like this other column that we're going to talk about. So there's certainly note taking within Salesforce. You can actually use the notes object to take notes. The other thing that I really like is the ability to use the activity tab and the feed tab to really see exactly what's going on. Some of this would be manual note taking, where you actually go in and log a new event or a new task or log a call. But part of this is actually automated, where it's actually going to pull in emails that have been sent or received that are tied to this particular account or a particular project or anything else. And so really you get this overall view, whether you're going in and putting in notes manually about a meeting, whether you're just sending emails or receiving emails, that information all can show up over here. So these are, for example, tasks that are showing up here. There are some calendar items, some events that have happened. There's some emails that have been sent that have been harvested from Outlook. And so based upon all of that information, you really get more of a 360 view than you would have than if you're just going in and putting in notes manually. So I think there's both a manual and an automated aspect of this sort of like note taking in the big picture. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, and if I could just quickly recap, what I'm hearing is that, there could be email exchange that's done over on the Outlook side that we could capture here within their profile. So if there are key emails that we want to just make sure we're collecting as part of this, individual's kind of 360 view of that relationship, if you will, we can capture that here. And then it looks like there's events. Question for you relative to Salesforce Marketing Cloud, though. If I'm sending out communications through there as well as meeting invites, would those like just automatically track per client profile?
John, can those go into the activity feed, or would we add a new tab for that communication?
They would show up on the record. Not sure if they would show up on activity. They would show up under their email history though. So like if
Yeah,
you
so
send
they
out
would
like
show
a
up
mass
as an email.
communication to, yeah, a number of people, then it would show up under the email history.
And you're capturing all these emails because they were sent out through that integration with Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Is that how this all came in?
So this is actually using the Outlook integration to capture those emails.
Mhm.
There's a few different ways to do it. There's like Einstein activity capture and a few other things you can do too.
So Liam, with that said, okay, let's just assume and that is there kind of a smart logic built in so that it's reading who I'm sending these emails out to within my Outlook, and then anytime that it's, you know, these individuals that I have listed on my key partner tab, anything that's sent out to them, it's documenting it within this catalog.
Yeah, and we can also have activity, like an activity section and a feed section for an individual key partner too. So in the example of like Ed, for example, if we click into Ed's record, we could actually see all the emails that we had sent to him and received from him, and any other interactions in the same way that we're seeing any of the interactions and tasks that are tied to the account on the whole.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that it's capturing anyone that's, you know, I'm sending or receiving email from due to this Outlook integration based on my contact list here. But then I can do a drill down on one person and see what specifically did he send and or receive.
Yep, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. And then as it relates to, say, a meeting invite, do I also see my meeting invites through the Outlook integration as well?
Yeah, they can be pulled in too. And I think they just show up as an email. I'm trying to remember what they look like when we set, we use this, sorry, not to make you self-conscious, but we use the same thing internally in Salesforce. And I'm trying to remember what they look like when we pull them in. I think they just look like an email.
I noticed that you have kind of that tag, if you will, on those below the upcoming and overdue, that it says email. I'm wondering if there's just kind of another indicator that's used. Perhaps that's what it is. It's like maybe one icon is a color with, yeah, you can see here.
That's because these are tasks. And so the due date is past because I haven't updated my due dates. But it's showing that the due date for that particular task is past. So like the little green check mark is a task. This is an event. This icon is an email. So that's what you're seeing here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then with tasks, are those just manually entered directly to this individual
yes.
page?
Yeah. Now there can be some automation there too. So if you want particular events or certain things to trigger the creation of a task or a set of tasks, you can do that too. It just depends exactly how you want to do that.
Yeah. For example, if you wanted to say after this call, I want to automatically have a task to follow up in 2 weeks, that can be an automation rule that you put together, and it would be in your task list in 2 weeks to kind of keep it top of mind. The other thing we have, and I know you guys have seen our scheduling tool through Sales Cloud Einstein activity capture, where you can send, scheduling really effectively, where you send them times internally for the team. It grays out those times if they're no longer available. It's a really effective scheduling tool if you don't already use something like that. And that would also be captured here in Salesforce.
That's like if you've seen the little blue buttons that Emily sends out with the different times, that's what that is.
Yeah.
For the events though, like those events which we saw the deal review, for example, is that something which comes from Marketing Cloud? So for example, we created an event, or we had a town hall communication which went out, and there was an event we wanted to, we wanted people to RSVP for. Is that something? And so for example, if we were just doing it for School of Arts and Architecture, would that be something which we could see here or view here and see who RSVP kind of thing?
Yep. Yeah, I think Liam's going to touch on that, as well as some of the survey data that you can pull into from Marketing Cloud directly to a record. So we're gonna kind of show you more about how that works as well. Right, Liam?
Yeah, yeah, and there's a few, I mean, there's a lot of different options when it comes to like events management, whether you want to use something more basic or something a little more complex, not complex, but more full featured, where you're really managing like, you know, RSVPs and other, you know, lists and good things like that.
Yeah, you can also create a dashboard as well related to who has RSVP'd for an event, who's attended the event, who hasn't responded yet. You can capture all of that inside Salesforce in a dashboard. I know we're running a little behind time, so I don't know.
Yeah, I just noticed what time it was.
Yeah.
I'm just going to talk about a couple more things, and then I'll turn it over to John so that he can talk about his side. I did want to talk about sort of getting some insights. So here I'm actually using Einstein because I know that one of the things we had talked about is making sure that Lucy doesn't get blindsided when she goes into a meeting. One of the ways I was thinking about being able to do that is by using information that we already have in the system to deliver insights and predictions and sort of like overall understanding of, for example, the overall health of the unit and the relationship status of that particular unit. We can take individual information, including some of the information that John's going to talk about in sending out those interactive emails for survey purposes. And we can take that information and crunch those numbers to give, and this is just a very basic example, but like an overall relationship score. So when you go into this, you know, this unit record and go, okay, well, how are things going overall? And say, well, we've got a 62, so not great. And what are the leading causes? Oh, here are the reasons that the system is delivering that result as what it thinks the relationship score is. So we can use Einstein, or we can use, you know, even like Emily said, basic dashboards to take this information and kind of crunch those numbers so that you have this overall view of like how things are going at that particular unit. Two more really quick things, just because I keep talking about dashboards and I haven't shown you any. I'm sure you've seen a dashboard before. This is just like an example of, you know, we can provide dashboards and create dashboards at a variety of different levels for, you know, for individual accounts, for individual units, I should say, sorry. Or even just overall, we can look at the entire school. The other nice thing that I wanted to talk about is actually using Tableau to do that. And this is where you're going to have to forgive me very much for, it's not at all EDU specific, but I think it's a really cool dashboard. And the reason for that is because it's actually showing, it's like a white space analysis. So when you're looking at the entire university and going, okay, who has adopted our central email system? Where's the white space for that? Who has adopted, you know, who's using like, you know, different LMS platforms, who's using whatever it may be. If you want to take that information and look at it on a global scale for the entire university, this is a great way to do that. And again, kind of going into those meetings, it gives you the, you know, the tools that you would need to like drill down to an individual account and then to see exactly where the white space is in that particular account. Okay, well, I can see they're not using our, network storage. I can see they're not using our email platforms. So maybe these are some of the things that we want to talk about with them, whether you're looking at it from like an entire university perspective or drilling all the way down to individual units. So I am going to stop sharing. Any questions? Yeah, Jennifer, sorry.
Could I ask, see, when I look at something like that and you say, are they using this or they're not? To me, that very much aligns with the services conversation that we had earlier. So those two would kind of go hand in hand with one another, because you're absolutely right. You know, it would be a display of, here are all the services that they take advantage of. Here are the ones that they don't, but we have opportunity here. You know, do they have an appetite for XYZ? You know, and then she can have those conversations with them, or, you know, perhaps someone on our team can have a conversation with them to see if that's something they'd want to pursue. But are those two in any way tied with one another? The services tab and what you had shown us as it relates to white space?
Yeah, so that Tableau dashboard that I was showing you can actually pull in information, whatever information Salesforce has access to, or even information that Salesforce doesn't have access to, since it's Tableau. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it can be used to create those dashboards and reports.
Mm-hmm.
Another good use, which I feel with Tableau, could be the surveys, and then just like, you know, if we are saying, okay, these are our stakeholders, and we could have like how we were seeing earlier, Jennifer, like, okay, these people are lying in this low satisfaction area versus here's this critical group which is saying, and I think those would be some good views we can turn out through Tableau. I think Tableau would be very smart for that.
I can vouch for Tableau CRM so far. We've really developed a lot of great sets of dashboards for our COVID. It looks really nice. So I'm excited about Tableau CRM.
It's great.
You know what else would be helpful, and I don't know where you would track this as well. The interaction that we'll have with our units is going to be obviously two-way. So where would we be able to track kind of the key priorities that they have, or key initiatives underway, or key dates that we need to be cognizant about relative to their units?
So those, I mean, it really depends what's going to make the most sense for the way that you're building out that display. Whether they're, showing up like in the feed, or whether you actually have a full task list, or even like a calendar that's showing up those, different critical dates. I think it's more of a conversation about like what's going to make the most sense for you, rather than can it be done or not. It certainly can be done. It just, I don't want to propose a way that doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Sorry, that's a really nebulous answer. That's not particularly helpful, but it can certainly be done, I guess, is the point.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know that one of the things that we had talked about is, initially, if to kick all this off, Lucy goes out and talks to the deans of, say, each of our schools, and they say, here are the top 3 to 5 priorities that I have for, our academic unit over the next school year. We would be able to track those if there's any key dates that we need to work around, et cetera. And then, it's almost kind of providing us with that kind of stack, if you will. Here's everything they have going on, and here's everything that we're proposing, so that, it really helps us kind of from a heat map perspective with that unit as well.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the conversation, is how much, like, what is the point where those get input, where those strategic initiatives get input, where do they go? And what's the process for actually turning them into a project? So like, are you going to input them immediately into Smartsheets, kind of like we were talking about previously, or is there going to be a process where it might be, maybe it's an opportunity, maybe you're not an opportunity, maybe you're using the opportunity object because it kind of has some of that functionality built in, where you can have like a close date. So we know, hey, you know what, we know they want to migrate to the central email system by, May of 2022. Maybe that's your close date, and you can track that either in a dashboard or in a report, or even just in that list that I showed you. And you can sort of view those different critical initiatives by close, we call it a close date. And then you can also see the status, like we were talking about with the path too. And then once it comes to a point where it makes the most sense to, bring it over to Smartsheets, where it truly is going to become a project, then you'd close that opportunity and bring it over.
Yeah, you could change.
It's not even necessarily opportunities, but that's kind of the object that seems to make the most sense.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. You could put it in, like, instead of close date, projected completion date, and then enter in different dates. And you could also measure how many of these are getting completed on time, ahead of time, how many are overdue. And maybe that can help you kind of back into, okay, are we realistic with our timeframes when you're communicating with your stakeholders, as you're measuring how long projects are taking? So it seems like the opportunity object would be a great way to capture that, because then you can really create a dashboard off that too.
Sorry, go ahead, Jennifer, you were saying.
The only thing I was going to say is it looks like opportunity, that tab could be used in multiple ways. Could you replicate it and use it in, say, 3 different ways? Or is it, no, every client can only have like one opportunity tab? Because I could see using that as how we track, hub and spoke progress. I could see it tracking, the progress and/or efforts that we're making against their specific unit requests, et cetera.
Yeah, so when we were looking at that opportunity, when I showed you that just like very brief, email migration opportunity, our opportunity object, the opportunity object in this demo org actually has like a couple hundred different fields. And depending on what the right thing to do is between using record types and page layouts, you can actually expose the right fields for that particular use case, and they can be tied to an individual app. So we're in the sales console app and we're looking at the, the opportunity that is appropriate for that. You can use that same opportunity object and different fields, entirely different fields for different purposes. So yeah, absolutely. Like that's a very long-winded way of saying, yes, you can absolutely do what you just described.
Great. I guess the way I always think about this is we're almost trying to replicate that we're sitting there in the unit and we know everything going on in that unit, but from a central view. I mean, that's really what we're ultimately trying to kind of, enable our org to be able to have that level of visibility, primarily because, that's been one of the key points of feedback from each of our units is that we're unique. You're not as familiar with kind of everything going down, whether, as you had mentioned, the School of Art and Architecture, et cetera. So, I mean, anything we can do to start to help us get more and more visibility to what they're doing, across different dimensions would be great.
Yeah, that's what I really tried to capture. I hope that kind
Yeah,
of came
and you
across.
guys are using, you're using Slack, right, Jennifer, as well? Yeah, so I mean, we're doing some really cool things in terms of integrations with Salesforce on Slack, which is even allows for even more collaboration when you're talking about a specific stakeholder or an account or an opportunity. There's other ways you can get more collaborative as we're getting more integrated with that tool too, in terms of better managing and understanding what's happening, if that makes sense.
Quick question. I think we mentioned that the source of truth would be ServiceNow. So this is going to require a heavy integration with ServiceNow. And if you're going to do this 360 view or centralized view, that means we're going to bring a lot of information from ServiceNow, even like service requests. How many, like, let's say the project is UC Path, and how many requests came to us, and maybe we want the total of that to be as part of this dashboard. From your experiences, that means that ServiceNow needs to be reconfigured and recustomized, and if there's going to be an integration. And are we talking about on the fly? That means there will be no data pushed to Salesforce. Actually, it will be an API and real time that will grab that information from ServiceNow.
So this is I'm going to send you the information on the ServiceNow integration so that you can read through it. Because I don't want to make any promises and be unrealistic. But I will send you all of the information that I have on that integration. And I think it's worth, discussing with ServiceNow, of course, also kind of what their recommendation would be. But I will get more information specifically, not only that's on our on the App Exchange, but anything else I can get for you.
Okay,
to make sure
I have a feeling that it will require changes in ServiceNow in order to achieve this. And especially if you're talking about even going with decisions, events that coming up, let's say with that stakeholder, that you want to have a view of that, and or the budget, if you want to bring the budget even. But a lot of information we have today is ServiceNow, and it'll be interesting to see that. I will definitely look into that one. Thank you.
Yeah, and this is likely going to be, a phased approach, right? In terms of how this gets rolled out. So, you're not going to probably see all this happening at once. It'll be starting with the CRM piece, then you start to pull in ServiceNow. Maybe there's certain components of ServiceNow you pull in, and then it kind of is a gradual build out, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I know we only have about 12 minutes left, and happy to use this time however you guys want. I know John was prepared to show you a little bit more about Marketing Cloud and how that all integrates with CRM, but we can also just do some Q&A on integrations and additional customization with the CRM piece, however you guys want to use the time.
John, how long is your, what you were going to show us on Marketing Cloud TV? Is it in or?
If I go fast, I can probably get it all in.
Okay.
I just wanted to show a couple examples.
Sure, that'd be great.
Go for it.
I don't know, it's just my suggestion.
And I had a few
Okay,
slides
all
I
right.
want to show at the end, so if you can leave me at least 3 minutes, John. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, then I'll try to go as swiftly as possible. Let's see, share my screen. Let me know when you all can see my screen, okay?
Yeah.
I know one of the things that was mentioned was like a calendar, and just like considering the different organizations that are going to be a part of this, just having a view where it's like, well, who's sending what and on what day and how much communication is going out. I just want to show you that, like, so when we're talking about Marketing Cloud, we're always talking about things at scale. So at scale, you'll have a marketing calendar. Now, I'm in a demo org, so we don't have a lot of rich data in here to show. But for example, I just want to show you all the different ways you can view the calendar data. So for example, I can filter by the type of campaign. If I want to see like, well, what are all the upcoming campaign communications for a specific campaign, I can filter by that. I can go over here, I can filter by message type. If I want to just see like emails, mobile connect, mobile push, things like that. And I can even filter by the different units. So if I want to say, well, which department is sending out emails and what does a specific department have scheduled? And I can even just select a couple departments if I want to compare and contrast, two departments on campus and see how like just from a volume perspective and a scheduling perspective, what's taking place. So I just want you to know you have a full view of that. Now, when I say you have a full view of that, of course, I mean somebody who has more like an admin level view to take a look at everything that's happening. Individual contributors from individual departments may not have this same view because you may not want them to, but if you have a permission set that will allow that, then you can have this type of view, okay? Any questions about that? Okay. Also, I wanted to show.
Just one question, John, just wanted to clarify when you say, so this could be just individual emails which I send out, or these would be all in campaign formats. Like when we say campaigns, it's like, just want to clarify that. What do you mean by campaign?
Yeah, I mean, well, you can tie anything in Marketing Cloud that you're doing to a campaign. So if you want, if you tie like a specific email or message or asset to a campaign, then it can show up here and you can filter it by that. Did that answer your question? I'm not sure.
Yep. I think we can explore more.
Okay. All right. So then I wanted to also show a really slick way to capture survey data from anyone that you want to capture survey data from. And so I'm just going to show an example email here, because surveys was also brought up throughout our communication. And we have a component inside of Marketing Cloud called interactive email, and it's probably underutilized and is really valuable in terms of just how you can go about gathering more information in a very quick way. The data you capture from this, you can be pushed to a data extension in Marketing Cloud, and then from there you can do whatever you want with it. You can have it update a CRM contact record in such a way if you want. But so for example, if you had like an on-campus event, maybe you had like a guest speaker, you could send everyone who attended an email and just ask them to rate it. How was the event? Which session did you like best? In this case, I've got that set up as a drop-down. What was your biggest takeaway? And this is all included in the body of the email. So people can respond to this. Like, let's say they open the email on their phone, they can just check the star for what their rating was. They can just click the drop-down, select the thing, and hit submit without ever leaving the email. So they don't have to go to a separate website. So what's beautiful about this is you can get short information very quickly. People are very okay with filling out quick surveys if they see the questions and they're right there and they don't have to leave and go do something else. Oftentimes, as people have this perception of a survey as, I'm going to click, it's going to open up some page, it's going to take time, even if it's only 2 seconds. In the email world, that's forever. And then you don't know how long the survey is, so they're going to assume it's 20 questions, even though it might only be 3. So this is a really, really impactful way to collect information quickly and then do something with it. And I've only shown a few examples here, like, review, or like you can give like review stars, you can do like drop downs, but you can do radio buttons, you can do other input types as well, just for in terms of what you want to collect here. You can do checkboxes. So I wanted to at least show that too as a way to gather more data at scale, right? Okay, I'm going to keep moving just because I want to leave Emily at least a couple minutes here. And I wanted to show just inside of Journey Builder, this was mentioned on our last call with Traction, but when you're inside of Journey Builder, you can also create automated data flows back to CRM. So the idea is between Marketing Cloud and CRM that you have a bi-directional data flow set up. So when you're in Journey Builder, for example, and somebody's running through an automation, you could say at a certain point inside of an automation, I want to automatically create a task. So we spent a lot of time today looking at tasks on the CRM side, and you saw Liam show those tasks. You could say, well, anybody who reaches this point in a journey, let's have that create a task for somebody on the CRM side. Maybe you want them to follow up. Maybe there was an announcement regarding payroll, and there's somebody who hasn't opened either of the 3 emails that you sent out, and it's critical that they read this information. Then maybe you create a task to have somebody follow up with them via phone, because it's gonna be problematic if they don't actually read the email. And then down here you can see all the other ways you can integrate these two things together. You know, create a case, update an opportunity, update a contact record. So again, these things are supposed to work, you know, harmoniously together. And then the last thing I was going to show very briefly, this will be a little bit of a teaser. Netica, for the Datarama reports that we're this close to getting you access to as soon as we get the paperwork back. But within the Datarama reports, you'll have visualizations that you can filter in any such way. Now, again, I'm in a demo environment, so you're not going to see a lot of rich data here. It's going to be primarily blank because I'm not sending out emails at mass or anything like that. But you can see the filter types as well from within Datarama reports here. Because I know you wanted to be able to segment it and cut this data up to say, like, well, who's sending what was sent over the last 30 days, things like that. You'll be able to do or create dashboards, pivot tables, and other reports as well from within here. And it's going a little slow because I'm on camera, but ultimately you could, it's going to pull up like, like a dash, like in this case, like a default dashboard like this, but you can filter by send date. You can break it down by business unit, which in other words, like just organization or department. You can break it down by campaigns. You can see the number of sends, the deliveries, the bounce rate, you know, and then you can go down into like engagement performance and all sorts of like wonderful metrics. So you have capability to view like how is everything performing. Okay. And with that, Emily, I think I've left you 3 minutes. Exactly.
Can I ask a quick question? And I don't know, I forgot to ask this when we were having Datarama discussion. So, and I had asked kind of detailed questions, Tableau CRM, but between Tableau CRM and Datarama, can Tableau CRM accomplish what Datarama is doing, or just they're very unique? And
well, the nice thing about these reports is these are included and out of the box, whereas in Tableau, if you wanted this kind of data, you would have to probably build a customized dashboard to do it. So this is already taking that off your plate, is essentially what we're doing here. When you think of Datarama in general versus a Tableau, Datarama is intentionally built to be a marketing analytics tool. So it's designed to analyze your marketing ROI, your marketing events, your data, you know, everything related to marketing specific.
That's what I figured. It's very specific to Marketing Cloud, and it comes pre-delivered with this, you know, kind of the dashboards versus us building it. Okay. I don't want to take time away from Emily.
But that's okay. And I know we only have like 3 minutes left, but I think one thing I just wanted to touch on, and I know Jennifer and I had talked about it, is that one thing I keep hearing from the, the feedback I'm getting a lot is that, you know, you all want to digitally transform and kind of move into this new world. However, there's a lack of resources, there's a lack of enablement, it's a big undertaking, and we have resources to help you. And so I have mentioned this before, I know to Jennifer and a little bit to Neetika and Lucy, and just kind of wanted to just drive this home to the team that we have, you know, both a business, our CSA, our customer success architects, to sort of help you with, project management, and really planning and being really strategic with the platform and making sure that you're set up for success in the long term. And we also have a new offering related to actual hands-on keyboard. So it's more of an advanced support model. So it's like having a Salesforce admin on staff as well as a project manager. And we can vary the time frame that you would want to maybe use this, but I just wanted to touch on it and show you what's involved and what's included in this as a way for you to possibly use this resource to help as you're continuing to scale and to digitally transform through implementation with some of these platforms. I know we were talking about some different projects that kind of got put on hold because of the fact that there wasn't really enough bench to support. So I just wanted to let you know that these options are available, and we can talk more about that at another time and kind of configure it. There's also the possibility of sharing those resources with other UC schools. We've done that in the past to help you share in the cost. So, UC Irvine is doing a lot of projects with us, and they want to continue to scale and are also running into some similar issues. So we can provide a resource for both of you and some possible synergies in having some knowledge share meetings and those kinds of things, as well as, Berkeley's another one that we could include. So something to think about as you're looking to solve that problem of resources and enablement. We can help kind of bridge that gap. So I just wanted to touch on that before we end. I know we're right at time. So I wanted to just pause there. Thoughts on next steps, questions, follow-ups?
And Emily, that's good to know. I think you said it's a recent service you added, right? So yeah, give us more information on that. I know you were, when we spoke during the Works.com implementation, your proficient services team were kind of, we didn't have that offering. So
Yeah.
This kind of bridge the gap. But yeah, Jennifer and I and Lucy, we can definitely discuss, but it's good that you have that offering now, at least if you need to reach out. But we're trying to grow our Salesforce team as well. But that's definitely something that, it's great that you're offering now.
Yeah, definitely. And as they are limited resources. The next one isn't available till December. So if it is something that you're interested in, I can start some type of a discovery call there, because they do kind of book out pretty far in advance. Obviously, I think it's going to be pretty successful with our customers. So hopefully we'll continue to build that team out. But for now, they're kind of limited. Just FYI. Other questions, feedback?
Emily, so both the architect and the BA, you identified two pillars of that. They're kind of the same availability spectrum on both?
There's three pillars, and I kind of rushed through it since I know we have a limited time here. I showed you guys the CSA and the business advisory. So there's a team that's really focused on change management, and that's more of a consulting engagement. Then there's the CSA that's more project management, strategic, kind of post-implementation, kind of mid-implementation, post-implementation, sort of helping you map out how your org should be, looking and operating. And then there's this new offering, so it's actually three, is an advisory service. So there's more, what are we calling it? It's advanced support. And they're basically project management as well as hands-on keyboard help. So helping you build out actual dashboards or workflows or custom objects, things like that. As those things come up post implementation, they would then step in to basically serve as a Salesforce admin, which is different than a CSA, which is not hands-on keyboard. They're much more just sort of a more strategic focus. They help you sort of do the work. Whereas this admin, this service actually does hands-on keyboard work. So it's a little bit different. The soonest we can have a CSA is available September. The advanced support isn't available till December. And they're different folks, if you will. And then the business kind of transformation, the change management piece of it, that consultancy, I have to check and see when they're available. But they're kind of three separate offerings, if that helps.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it should give us kind of some more information on that. And I saw that fixed fee for 6 months. Does that apply to all three pillars?
It varies a little bit. So the longer time frame you go, the more the better the pricing. Again, we're also open to exploring sharing that service with another UC. Okay. So it's $65,000 for 3 months for a CSA, or it's like $110 if you do it for or I think maybe 120. You save a little bit by doing it for 6 months. Obviously a year, it goes down from there. So it just sort of depends on the time frame that you need, and the pricing will then go down based on duration.
Okay, we'll just, once you send us information, we can definitely look at it.
Yeah,
but
it
it's-
works out to like $2.29 an hour. We did the math on this just to give you an idea. But again, that hands-on keyboard role includes project management as well as admin assist, as well as hands-on keyboard. So you're really getting a pretty good value there for if you consider what it would cost to have a Salesforce admin on staff. So it's just sort of helping you bridge that gap, as well as providing you that project management strategic level consulting at the same time. So you kind of get both with that offering. And then you can always transition from there to a CSA, keep them on board, hire somebody, and they can help you with that transition. It's just a way to bridge the gap.
Yeah, it's good to hear you are offering this now. I know we could definitely use this back in
I know.
October of last year.
Just came out with it. I know.
Well, it's you live and learn, right? This is how you grow your business. It's good.
Yeah. I know we're 4 minutes over. Thank you guys so much for the time. I'm going to stop the recording. Are there